Hi, Tim Unkert here. In this video, we're going to talk about numbers in Python. So first off, let's assign a variable to a number. A variable is like a box that can contain something. So I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it my_num. That's snake casing. And I'm going to assign it the value of 300. Okay, so this is what we're doing here is we are assigning a value to a variable in Python. And what I'm doing here is I'm making a comment. So I have a comment, which is a hashtag, and then I make the comment afterwards. And then I can print out the variable. And to do that, I'll just do print and in parentheses my num. And if I want to run the file, I'll run the file. And we see we get 300. Okay. We can also check the type of numbers. So let's check the type of number. Okay, so what we can do is we can print type inside the print parentheses. I have type and then my num. And if I print that out or run that, it says a class of int. That means it's an integer. Okay. I could also just print the type of the number without putting it in a variable like so. And we get class of integer as well. Now, if I want to make it a float, all I have to do is I can do type. Well, I don't have to do type, but to show what type it is, I'll print type. But I can do 300 with a period here, and I don't have to have anything after it. And that's a float. Now notice this and type with 300 with 0.0, it's the same value as 300, but because we have the 0.0, that's a float. Okay, so we see class float there. And of course, if we have something besides 0 after the decimal, like print type of 300.3, for instance, that's going to be a class of float. It's going to be a floating point number. Okay, we can also, in Python, we can do arithmetic. Okay, so we can print, for instance, 20 plus 6. And if we run that, we'll get, as expected, 26. We can print 20 minus 6. So this should be 14. Okay. And if we look at the type of both of these, let's look at the type. So we'll do print and then type 20 plus 6 and print type 20 minus 6. We do that and run this. We get both integers there. We could also print, we could print 20 times 6, and I'm going to use the asterisk here, and that should give us 120, and it does. And if we go here and we do the type of 20 times 6, we get still a class of integer. We can also do division. So we'll print 20 divided by 6. Okay, and if we run that, we get 3.3333333, and we get a 5 at the end. That's Python. That's a little quirky, but this should be 0.3 repeating. So just be thoughtful of that if you're really looking for accuracy to that point. Okay, now let's print the type of 20 divided by 6. And if we do that, we get a class of float. So when you perform division on two integers, you're going to get a float. Now let's try 20 divided by 10. That should give us just 2. 2 is an integer, but if I run this, it's still a class of float. You know, even though I came up with something that could be considered integer, let's do 20 divided by 10, which would be 2. You notice we get 2.0, so it's a floating point number. Outside of regular division, we can do floor division. So we could do 20 and then 2 slashes here and 6. And if we print that, notice we get 3. Now let's look at the type of that. So we'll print the type of 20 with the floor division of 6. That means it's cutting off the decimal point. And we see that we get with floor division, we do get an integer, okay? Outside of floor division, there's a couple other operations we can do. So we can do the modulo operator. So what we could do is we could print 20 and then this percent sign and 6. And if we do that and we run it, we get 2. So why do we get 2? Well, what the modulo operator does is we divide 20 by 6. So we get, well, 3. 6 goes into 23 times. 6 times 3 is 18. And we're left with a remainder of 2. So the 2 here is actually the remainder of the division. And what you can use the modulo operator, one thing you can use the modulo operator for, is to determine if a number is even or odd. If a number is even and you divide it by 2, it would have a modulo of 0. But if it's odd, it would have a modulo of 1. So that's one way you can distinguish between even and odd numbers in Python. You can also do exponents. So let's, I didn't spell that right, exponents, okay? So we can do exponents in Python. So for instance, we could do 3 and then 2 asterisks to the second power, and that should give us 9, okay? And if we do that, we get 9. And also, let's look at the type here for the modulo before I move on. So we'll print type 20 modulo 6, and let's also do the type of the exponent. So 3 double asterisk 2. Okay. And if we run both of those, and I scroll up a little bit here, I see that both the types coming back are integers. Okay. Let's see. What else? Well, Python also follows order of operations. So Python follows order of operations. So for instance, let's print 3 plus 3 times in parentheses. Now, interesting note, I can't just do a 3 up against the parentheses like this. It's going to give me an error, so I actually do have to indicate the times here. Let's do 3 minus 3, okay, plus 3, and we'll raise it to the third power divided by 3. Now, how is this going to work? Well, Python's going to evaluate. Let's work this through. Python's going to evaluate the parentheses first. So we're going to have 3 plus 3 times 0 plus 3 to the third power divided by 3. Next up, Python is going to evaluate the exponent. So if you remember PEMDAS, so PEMDAS, parentheses, then the exponents, then multiplication and division are treated equally, then addition and subtraction are treated equally. Both multiplication and division treated equally from left to right, and addition and subtraction treated equally from left to right. So next up, when we perform this, we're going to have 3 plus 3 times 0 plus, we're going to do the exponent, 3 to the third power is 27, divided by 3. We're next going to do multiplication and division from left to right. Multiplication comes first, so we'll have 3 plus 0 plus 27 divided by 3. We're going to do the division next, so we'll have 3 plus 0 plus 9. And so therefore, when we add these up, 3 plus 0 plus 9 is going to give us 12. Okay, let's run this and confirm. And see, we get 12. And we actually get 12.0. Why is that? Well, we have this division here. And so this part here, sure, it becomes 9.0. And then we add the integers to the float. We get the float of 12.0. Okay, so that's order of operations. If you want a particular operation to perform first, wrap it in parentheses. So wrap computations in parentheses first, that you want completed first. Want completed first. So let's take a look at an example of that. So I'm going to actually come up with a variable here. Let's call it calculated underscore num. And I'm going to go have fun with my 3. So I'm going to do 3 plus 3. And we're going to raise that to the third power plus 3 raised to the 3 minus 3 power. So what should this be? Let's work it out. Well, we're going to do parentheses from left to right. So we're going to have 6 raised to the third power plus 3 raised to the 3 minus 3 power. Then we'll have 6 to the third power plus 3 minus 3. We're doing the second parentheses now is a 0. We're going to do the exponents now. So we'll do 6 to the third power is going to be 6 times 6 times 6. So that's 216 plus then 3 still raised to the 0 power. 3 to the 0 power is going to be 1. So we're going to have 216 plus 1. So we should get 217. Okay, so let's print the calculated num and print the type of calculated num. If we run that, we go ahead, we get 217. Now, so we didn't have any division here, so class is integer. Okay. All right, we can also, well, we can now, let's say we divided the calculated num by itself. So we got 217. So let's create a new variable. Let's call it new num equals calculated num divided by 217. So that should be 1, right? But it's going to be 1.0. All right, so let's print the new num because we have division, right? So we get 1.0, and the type of the new num is going to be a float. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about changing the number type. So in Python, we can change the number type. So let's take calculated num. The type of calculated num was, we scroll back up here, see it was integer. Let's print float calculated num. And if we run that, we get 217.0, and we can do print type float calculated num, and we see we've changed the type to a floating point. Now if we have, let's say, other num here, and let's say we have the 20 divided by 6, so let's print the other num. We're going to see that's 3.3 repeating. Let me try and think of another one that would be, let's see, so that's 3 and 2, 6. Let's do 20 divided by 3 here. We run that, we get 6.6 repeating here. So we printed this other num. Now let's change other num underscore int, and we'll say that's an int of the other num. And then let's print the other num as an integer, and we get 6. So you notice here it just chops off the decimal point part. And so we can print the type of other num integer, and you see we've changed it to an integer. So that's a little bit about how you can change numbers back and forth. Hopefully this video was helpful. I gave you a bunch of different ways to mix numbers back and forth. And if you enjoyed it and haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.